So the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 7 FE model. You might as well call it the Forgotten Edition because I am not seeing any reviews on it on YouTube because people are not covering this phone, and there are some reasons for that, but I truly believe whenever we're looking at the sales we're seeing on this phone, this may be the best folding phone that you could get in 2025, and I'm gonna let you know why in my full review. So let's get right into it. So I tried out the Z Flip 7 for myself, and I also wanted to try out the Z Flip 7 FE. And to my surprise, I actually prefer the FE model this year over the regular Z Flip 7. Now, I know it might sound crazy that I'm in love with the Z Flip 7 FE, and you have to understand that the Z Flip 7 FE, it has such a cool and compact form factor that I really like, and whenever you see the price for $699, that is incredible. But I do change my mind sometimes. Sometimes I prefer the Z Flip 7 because it has such a great cover display, and sometimes I prefer the Flip 7 FE, but the main point is people are sleeping on this phone and they are forgetting that it's actually pretty good. So a lot of people aren't really hyping up the Z Flip 7 FE because it's basically just a Z Flip 6. But this, it has an Exynos processor, the Exynos 2400. So a lot of people just say, well, you should just buy the Z Flip 6, and then they don't even cover the Flip 7 FE. Or they get enamored with the Flip 7, and they don't really consider the audience for something like the Flip 7 FE. When I tried the Z Flip 7 in my hands, it was amazing. That outer cover display, the fact that it covers your whole screen, it's awesome, and it's a little bit wider, so that's a good thing if you want more content on your cover display. But whenever you open up the Flip 7, one thing you're going to notice is the regular Flip 7, it's very wide, almost too wide for some people. Now the Z Flip 7 is actually thinner as far as the dimensions. Of course, the FE is supposed to be just a little bit thicker. And the Flip 7 FE, the cover display is a little bit smaller. Of course, it's not as wide, but it also doesn't go quite as far down to the cameras here. So you have a little bit of extra bezels here on the top of the phone. I have a Kind suitcase on, but there are some bezels here that you're not going to find on the Flip 7, and you're also not going to have to deal with the bezels here on the bottom, and the phone on the Flip 7 is a little bit wider. But other than those things, and the fact that the cover display has 60 Hertz on the Flip 7 FE, other than that, and the processor being a little bit different, you're not going to see many differences at all between this and the Z Flip 7. But the one difference you will find is the price. So the Z Flip 7 FE, yes, it does retail at $899. That is a very forgettable price, especially for 128 gigabytes of storage. But there have been sales only a few weeks after launch. We are now seeing this phone go down to $699. And that's where I say this phone is an incredible steal. So the Flip 6, yeah, in certain countries, maybe you're gonna find the Flip 6 for a reasonable price. Maybe you're gonna find the Flip 6 for even cheaper. If you do, well, yeah, maybe that is a good phone to buy. But when I actually owned the Z Flip 6, I had this really weird popping sound that came from my screen protector. Also, the screen protector on the Z Flip 6, it actually had a little bit of a cutout around the camera so that things could be a little more clear from the camera on the inside of the phone. But the problem with that is dust started to build up a lot around that part of the camera. Well, they did change the screen protector to actually cover the full display here, or most of the display, on the Z Flip 7 FE. So I'm not hearing that popping sound. I'm not hearing any sounds from the screen protector. I'm not getting dust building up here. So even though this does have a different processor, this is basically a Z Flip 6. In my opinion, it's actually a better version. For some people, they would prefer the Z Flip 6 processor, but for me, the Exynos 2400 is more than fast enough. I'm not having many issues at all with it, but I'm actually able to use it without hearing all those annoying sounds that I used to hear from my Z Flip 6. And the fact that I'm getting this phone with 7 years of operating system updates for $699, that is so much cheaper than you could find the Z Flip 7 for. You're almost paying half price for this phone. And this phone has the same cameras as the Z Flip 7. It has the same type of display, it's just a little bit smaller. You're not really missing much. This is almost identical outside of having a 60 hertz cover display, a smaller cover display, and yeah, you are going to have a phone that's a little less wide and that doesn't have the Exynos 2500. You're going to have the Exynos 2400 instead. But for those sacrifices to save you like 600 bucks, that is a lot of money to save. So even though the cover display, it's a little bit of a worse experience for me because it's not as wide. So if I have the phone closed, I can't scroll as much. You have to consider that on the Z Flip 7, with these camera rings that get in the way, you end up having to push up the image anyway sometimes because those cameras can actually cover up some buttons with some of the applications you end up using. So a lot of you out there, if you're looking at a foldable phone or a flip phone, this is actually a much better value. No, it's not going to have the same performance as the Z Flip 7, but if you look at the benchmarks, it's actually fairly close, but it's going to save you a lot of money. So if we look at the design here, again, this is going to look just like the Z Flip 6. It's going to be a little bit thicker than the Z Flip 7, but it actually feels a lot lighter in my hands whenever I'm using it because I'm not having such a hard time gripping it because it's not quite as wide, and that does just make it feel lighter because it's just easier to hold overall. But the build quality on this feels very, very nice. Again, it's the same build quality as the flagship phone from 1 year ago. The speakers are actually fairly loud and they're pretty good speakers. Of course, not quite as good as some phones like the S25 Ultra, but still pretty darn close. The inside display, of course, has a very, very good resolution. The screen looks absolutely great. And yeah, there is still a little bit of a crease here, but I scroll a little bit below it, and that helps me to avoid the crease anyway. So this video is not for those looking for the absolutely big, awesome, cutting-edge technology. If that is you, you're probably going to go with the Z Flip 7 or something like the Z Fold 7, which is absolutely amazing. My favorite foldable out there. It's great, but it's bigger, it costs like $2,000, and some of you just want the fun factor, and this phone is very, very fun. You could use this cover display, of course, to take pictures of yourself, and you can get some decent shots on it, and it does look really, really good. You could use this to take 4K video even, to see yourself if you're taking pictures of your kids. They can see themselves, of course, through the phone, and it is going to look really, really nice. So the camera quality on this Z Flip 7 FE, it is actually pretty good. You can record in 4K 30 or 4K 60. Again, you're going to have a similar experience with the cameras here if you're comparing it to the regular Z Flip 7 anyway. Now the camera here, it's not the same main camera, the 200 megapixel camera that you get with the S25 Ultra. It's going to be a little closer to what Samsung provides in the Galaxy S25. It'll be pretty close to that, and the quality is very, very good. And for me, whenever I'm taking pictures of my kids and my family and even my extended family and people like that, and if kids can see themselves in the cover display, that does make a very massive difference. Now again, when we look at performance, that Exynos 2400, 8 gigabytes of RAM, that is going to be fast enough for a lot of people out there. Now yes, this phone can get a little bit warm sometimes depending on what you're doing. I remember I was in the car on a very hot day, like 90, 95 degrees outside. I had a hotspot on. I was also charging my phone. I had a YouTube video going. And it did get a little bit warm, a little bit too warm to where it couldn't have picture-in-picture going at the same time as the phone just being on. So there are some situations if you're pushing this phone to have a hotspot while using 5G, while on the go, there's a lot of things, of course, that could make this warm. But in day-to-day use, whenever I'm using this in my house, taking photos of my kids, I'm actually going out with this phone, even plugging it into my car or something, I'm not experiencing massive overheating or anything like that. Even if I do some gaming on this phone, I could push this phone pretty hard. I could have a lot of phone games on like higher settings, and they are going to play fairly well. This is a good processor. It is very fast. It is very smooth going from app to app. 8 gigabytes of RAM will be enough for a lot of people out there. Now the display, when you are watching content on this phone, it is very, very awesome. It looks great. Of course, Samsung does so good with their AMOLED displays, and you're going to see that here as well. So I will say it again, this phone, it's not for those people who need the absolutely groundbreaking technology, the newest phone that's out. But if you're wanting a foldable phone and you're looking at the Z Flip 7 and maybe it's just a little too wide for you, you might as well save like 5, 6, 700 bucks depending on where you find the phone, what sales are going on. You might even save 300, but even for $300 or $400 off, you just get a little bit of a worse cover display. You get a phone that's easier to hold, a phone with the same main cameras and just a slightly slower processor. And I think that makes this phone a great value. I know this phone might be the forgotten edition out there, the phone that a lot of people aren't talking about, but to me it's actually the preferred edition because I would much rather save like $500 or $600 and get a phone that's just easier to hold. And again, they fixed a few minor issues I had with the Z Flip 6. So the battery life is a little bit worse compared to the Z Flip 7, I will say that. It does get me through the day. It's not great battery life, it's acceptable to good battery life. So some people might have to charge up at the end of the day if they push their phone to the absolute limit. So it's not perfect, but very good cameras. I've really enjoyed the cameras here. It's a fun phone with a lot of great fun accessories. It's really, really cool, and I would recommend it for those people that want a little more fun in their phone. They want a nice, durable flip phone, but they don't want to spend the extra money that they would have to spend on a Z Flip 7. Hopefully this review has helped you out. If it has, give me a like. You could also give me a sub. That would mean a ton to my channel. And another thing you could do is check out my links because I did review the Z Fold 7. The Z Flip 7 review is going to be coming as well. So there's a lot of Android stuff on my channel. Feel free to check out my videos. And no matter what you're going through, I hope you have a great day. And I really, really hope you enjoy your week.